All right, it is now 7:31. I'd like to call to order conservation. Let's see, today's December 10th, 2024, and we would like to look at the minutes. If we have does anyone have any omissions or corrections to the minutes? I just have one that I thought we might add on page number 2, where you've got all the bullet items, which was beautifully done. The last one, acknowledgement of the current driveway as it exists. I do think we should add one more bullet item that says address runoff areas that are breaching due to poor fill. We had talked a little bit about that.
All right.
Okay.
And Kyle had a couple comments that he already sent over, which I frankly haven't seen yet, but
Okay.
they should be straightforward.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve as amended?
I'll make a motion that the commission approve the meeting minutes of November 26th as amended.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All right. Roll call vote. Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Carl.
Carl Malberg, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay, great. Before we jump into administrative discussions, does anyone have anything that they would like to add? I have two. I'd like to talk about the calendar and the next meeting, and then another one, couple things to possibly add to the town newsletter for the month of January.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
All right. Okay. So Laura is here. Welcome. So SVT at Whitcomb, which is Mass DEP 204-0921. Greetings.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Good to see you this evening. Yes, I wanted to provide you with an update, even though the administrative windfall, I guess I'll call it administrative windfall from COVID allows us to extend our order of conditions. I still wanted to give you an update on our progress, which has been quite good. We began our manual work in 2020. We began the herbicide work in 2021. So we've completed 3 years on 2 of the units, and no, 3 of the units, and 2 years on, and we only have one more spot foliar treatment to do on 2 of the units. So that's almost completed. I think one of the most impressive results in my mind is that when we cleared and took out all of the red pine and the European tamarack, which is, as you realize, major, major disturbance. I don't know if any of you have been there. You know, I had my fingers crossed because that's what Bittersweet loves. And it's looking really good. So the battle's not over, but it's looking really good. So I was really pleased with that. And then also, while the herbicide work was going on, I would check in a couple of weeks after that work was done. And I was also really pleased to see how well they were working around some of our native plants. So when we had little oak seedlings or some native shrubs, I could clearly see where they'd worked around them. So that was good. So those are some really good results. And I sent the report along, but you might recall the root extraction technique, which is really, really tedious. It's taking a really, really, really long time to do, which we knew it would, but we wanted to test it out. It works, but it's incredibly time consuming. It is very challenging. What surprised me, though, and I think it was because we had a fair amount of tree cover at the time we were doing it in our plot, where we did just cutting the bittersweet. I was surprised that that's actually working right now. It's still working fairly well. So next year is going to be, though, I think a real test, because we've had some of the disturbance this year. And what I'm going to be doing is looking at what native plants are coming back in, So we were out there this spring, and there were some natives and some not invasive non-native, so it was kind of a mix. And there was a lot of invasive herbaceous plants. But I think we were seeing a pretty decent mix of what was growing back in. And so again, next year we'll take a look and we'll see if we think if we want to seed with some native or plant some native. We'll adapt as we go. But the plots where we're doing that experiment with the root excavation and the cutting and the solarization and the I call it smothering with cardboard, that will continue and will continue. We have vegetation monitoring plots set up and we do photo point monitoring. So we'll be continuing that. And we also share all of this with the CISMA. I don't know if you're familiar or remember what they are, but the Cooperative Invasive Species Management Group that we work with in the region. So that's really important that we're sharing our results. So that's just a great forum where we all share what we work on. But do you have questions for me about the work?
I have to say I enjoyed reading the report, Laura. It was really thorough, and I loved seeing the staffing hours versus the volunteers, but I could really hear in the tone of the letter that we really have to try and kind of bolster the volunteer efforts as well.
Yeah.
In order to make that remarkable impact. But thank you for putting that together.
Absolutely.
Does anyone have
How many of you have been out there recently?
Define recently.
Well, I know like now is like not the best time, but next year you'll have to make sure to go for a walk.
Yeah, we were out there for the walk with the water department, but that didn't really get over to
Yeah.
where you've been doing most of your work. So
Yeah, Amy's seen it, more
Yeah.
recently.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for Laura? All right. Well, we certainly appreciate you joining us. Is there anything else
Absolutely.
you'd like to add to our conversation, or?
Glad to hear that everything's going great and sounds like amazing work is being done. Thank you, Laura.
You're very welcome. Glad
Okay.
to report back to you. Take care,
That's
everyone.
great. Thank you for
You too.
joining us.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Take care. Okay, next we have Josh Lewis, Eagle Scout for Newtown Hill Trail. Greetings. Do you want to introduce
Yes.
yourself, Josh?
Yes. Hello. I'm Joshua Lewis. I'm from Troop 1 Littleton. I'm currently a sophomore in Littleton High School. I'm a Life Scout, so I'm looking to complete my service project. Amy Green and I have discussed different projects that I could complete, and we have picked one on the Newtown Hill property. The project is consisting of taking an existing trail and making a new path that's farther from the shore. So the new trail will be a lot drier since the existing trails near the shore is often swamped, wet. It's pretty difficult to navigate for walkers. The new trail will be drier since it's farther from the shore and more accessible to the walkers. The project should only require pretty mediocre brushwork. So that's going to include removing some shrubbery, moving some small, medium-sized rocks away from the path, and possibly removing some roots. I plan to start this project around early spring, and I am planning on completing it no later than the end of summer. I was wondering if you guys had any questions.
Can you tell us how wide your path is going to be?
Yeah, the path should be like 3 people's width. I don't have an exact measurement of the width of the trail, but it's a wider trail. The existing trail is pretty narrow compared to the new one.
Yeah. And are you, hopefully you're willing to kind of meander through some of the trees so instead of obviously having those kind of straight lines, that you'll be able to have that vision to kind of wander through with the path when needed.
Yes, the trail is not dead straight. it weaves kind of up and down the side of the hill, going in between trees and whatnot. It goes through two of the rock walls as well.
So do you have to take are you taking the rock walls apart, or we're gonna go up and over?
They're gonna go up and over. One of them is already has a pretty clear clearing from the rocks, so there isn't a whole lot I have to do with that one. But one of them will require only a few rocks to possibly be moved to the side. The
So
rocks are also small enough where it's not going to require anything more than just a couple hands.
So it sounds like you just need a lot of manpower versus material.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it going to cause you to remove any vegetation, the widening of the trail?
It's nothing alive. So there's not going to be any like trees we have to cut down. There may be, when I walked it last time, which I believe was like October, there were some ferns and there was maybe some small bush plants. I do not know exactly what those bush plants are. I do not believe they're endangered, if that was your concern.
I was just concerned about removing vegetation, basically, that we may not unnecessarily. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, there.
It's a pretty open understory through there.
Yeah. And no wetlands or stream crossings?
No.
So are we gonna try and temporarily decommission the other trail in order to let it kind of revegetate a little bit with signage, or are we gonna have both open at the same time?
I think it was mine and Amy's understanding that the trail would be closed off. But if I'm wrong, Amy, would you please correct me?
Yeah, no, that's right. The existing trail, which, sorry, I can't rotate this map. The blue-white dashed line is super wet, and there's really not much of it left. Because it's so wet, nobody goes down there. So we will close off that trail. And this is a little deceptive. It looks like we're going through the wetland at one part. We are not going into the wetland at all.
Okay. So we just need to come up with some signs at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Josh?
Are you going to need to bring materials in and out, or is it really just some tools and stuff to move rocks with?
Yeah, we will only be bringing in simple tools, no machinery whatsoever is needed. The rocks are small enough where we don't need like a rock swing, I believe it's called, to move them. So.
Okay. Cool. Anybody have any other questions for Joshua?
How long do you anticipate the project taking?
So as I said, I plan to start it early September and finish it no later than the summer. But I believe I can get it done before the end of summer for sure. I just like to make a wider estimate in case if there's any weather that postpones any work to be done.
Yes. Excellent. Well, we appreciate you coming in and wish you good efforts and great weather. And if you can just keep in touch with the commission with your progress, that would be great.
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, super. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks a
John.
lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so it's now 7:45. What I'd like to do is to hold off on administrative discussions for a bit and jump right into the 7:45, which is a request of determination of applicability, 11 Edward Drive, which is R12-33-11, a bylaw waiver required removal of 3 trees. Who's here to speak to that?
I guess I am.
Okay, can you introduce yourself, what your name is and where you reside?
Yep, I'm Kelly Driscoll and I reside at 11 Edward Drive.
Great. And you're the owner, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay, great. Tell us a little bit about what you're looking to do.
I have 3 hazardous trees on my property that are within the buffer that I'm trying to have removed. I did have a certified arborist come in and review my property and discuss with me which ones he thought were a hazard. I've also had Andrew come and look at my property.
Great. Are there
That'd be
any,
Tim.
Tim, yeah.
are
Tim.
there any photos that we can share?
Yes, I did send in photos with my application.
Okay. And then Kelly, what type of trees are they that you'd like to remove?
One's an ash, one's a red maple, and one is so dead that they couldn't identify what it was.
That was the arborist that said that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably an ash, but it's unsure.
So this is the diagram on my property.
And I didn't see any photos, so I don't know if Tim didn't load those.
I don't know. I mean, I did send them in to him with my application.
Yeah, they're not in here.
What are the, can you go back to the diameters of those
Yeah.
trees? Okay.
So one thing you also notice is this dead ash is actually on conservation land. And you have in the past allowed someone if there's a hazard tree and they're willing to go in and cut down the tree. So I think that would just be part of the vote.
And would they be removing the tree or just leaving it there?
No. So the idea is to not disturb anything. So with this particular one, the ash that's in the back of my property, that's actually, it looks like it's over my property line, it's leaning and it got damaged in construction. So it's going to fall. And the issue is that it's probably going to take down 2 or 3 other trees when it falls that I'm trying to preserve. So the plan would be to have them crane it out so it doesn't disturb anything else.
Okay.
Because what's been happening on the back of the hill after the construction was done is as trees fall, we've had 2 large trees fall, but the problem is then they take down like 2 or 3 other trees in the process.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to avoid with that situation.
And then the other 2 trees are, so we just trying to think, you're going to cut them off. Are you going to grind them down or leave the stumps?
No, I was planning to just leave the stumps,
Okay.
crane the trees out to not disturb anything. And then I think that they normally, they'd put it in my front yard or something and cut it up there.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have any questions? This is a waiver requirement.
So Kelly, I'm just looking at the diameters of the trees. Am I looking at the right side of the diagram? So a 7-inch diameter dead tree and then a 20-inch red maple. Am I reading that right?
Yeah. So the red maple, the issue with that dead tree is there's actually kind of 2 trees clumped together that form one tree, which is why it's
Right. Not stable. Yep. Okay. Commissioners, questions? What would be your time frame to do this work?
I mean, as soon as you guys decide if it's okay for me to do it, I'd probably try and have it done as soon as possible. Just to see if I could get it down before, anything happens. As far as it coming down in the winter.
Sure. Yep. Okay. Just
Uh,
after. Yep.
Amy, do you know if Tim documented that they were dead?
Yes. Yeah, he did. He went out there and I believe it was at least the two of them were damaged and definitely at risk.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a request for determination. What are our thoughts?
Given the report from the arborist and kind of the situation, I'd be comfortable with allowing the applicant to move forward under a waiver.
Would you like to?
Including work, or we could do that separately, including taking the tree down on conservation land.
So do you want two separate motions for that, Amy, or can we bulk that into one?
I think just one is fine.
Okay. Andrew, you're on a roll. You want to carry on?
I'm on a roll. Let me see if I can find my agenda again. But I'll go ahead and make a motion that the commission issue a -3 determination for, I'm sorry, I lost the address here,
11 Edward Drive.
for 11 Edward Drive with associated waiver, including the removal of the dead ash tree on Littleton Conservation Commission property.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
Okay,
All right, roll call vote. Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Carl,
Carl Melberg, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
myself, I. It's unanimous.
Okay. So Kelly, if you want to just circle back with Amy at some point, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, let's come back to discussion items. We're at 3 Stony Stream land tree removal.
Yep. So this was somebody who called in about they want to remove 3 trees. Hang on one second. Let me see if I can get this up.
Stony Stream land.
On Mill Pond.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. So Tim went out there with them, and as you can see from this photograph, those are 2 of the 100% dead trees, and the third one they want to take down would be this one here, which is dying. They haven't had a arborist out there, but Tim says it was clearly dying. So the question really is, do you want a RDA filing on this, or proceed? The owners did say if we could administratively approve just 2, they would leave this furthest dead pine and then want to take down the closer of the 2. And I don't think, oh yeah, this shows the pool that they're within range.
How close are we to the wetlands?
Right there. That's Mill Pond. You can see it better there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think it's like within 10 or 20 feet, so it is close.
So it's going to end up in Mill Pond.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
It depends which way it goes. It's either going to go in the pond or over to the pool.
Right. Is there stable access on the ground to get to those trees?
I do not know.
Okay. So the question is, we want to do similar for a request for determination or an NOI, correct?
Or RDA, yeah.
RDA, yep.
I think, given the proximity to the lake, at least an RDA would be good for the removal of these trees.
Yeah, and I think the owner's question would be, because he wants to get at least tree 1, and I think this is tree 3 back here, down this winter.
Mm-hmm.
If you would administratively approve these 2, and he'd probably just let this one take his chances with that one.
I think that they I agree with Andrew. I think they personally need to come in, and I
In
think
either case, yep.
I think we could do it that night. I would just want to make sure that the trees are felled in the proper direction so that they don't end up falling towards the lake.
Yep.
Okay. I personally, I would have them come in for the RDA. What are your thoughts, everybody? Hello.
I agree with everything that's been said.
Okay.
Um,
Amy,
on-
is that enough direction?
They need to do an RDA, whether it's 2 or 3 trees.
Yep. Okay, great. Next on it is transfer of Nagog lot 107. I haven't heard anything more. We did the update at the last meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, because that's what, January 13th? I left my agenda at the office, which had all my notes on it.
Right.
Who is going to make that presentation, and would you want to make the request on the 13th for them to declare that surplus, or just have the kind of an overall discussion on the 13th and leave the surplus question to another meeting with them?
Yeah, I thought it was a
What's the surplus thing?
They apparently, this is what happens 6 minutes before town meeting. They have to, select board has to declare its surplus property before it can be transferred to conservation.
That's crazy. That's crazy
well.
in
That's,
my mind. If that's is that a rule?
bring that up to
That's town council.
that's town council. They're the ones that did it. So I thought this was just going to be a meeting. I don't want to waste our time on a presentation if they're not going to.
They know that. I think they know the issue. It was presented last time. They know the issue.
So.
It should just be an up or down vote.
Yeah, I think it can be a
Well,
discussion.
They can't make a vote unless that is part of our request on their agenda item, that it's a vote for surplus.
If that's the only way to do it, just I guess that's what you do.
Okay.
I mean, it's if that's that.
Right.
But I
Right,
want to,
Amy?
I mean, I can make, a presentation, run through the slides we had at the town meeting, but I think it might be better coming from the commissioners, and I'm just not sure anybody's lined up to even be there. Because I think it should be more than just me there. And I think, Sarah, you said you might be out.
Right.
Chase isn't here. I'm just saying.
I vote for Chase. He's so good at these presentations.
I was hoping he was going to be here, because I was also going to suggest that he might want to just touch base with Mark Rombacher ahead of time.
Okay. Well, why don't we keep it as an open, and I would ask them to put it on the agenda as a formal request. But I
Yeah.
don't that we need to get into a full presentation. But we can talk
Yeah.
about it next meeting too.
They have a time slot for us. It's not until the 13th, but that's going to be here before we know it. So.
Right. Okay. Cool. Next is leash law discussion.
Oh, I don't know if any of you saw, there was just a lot of discussion on Littleton Trails Facebook on, I guess it was just Sunday, about a dog being aggressive and not under control, actually over on Whitetail. So I believe the select board is going to have a meeting, or it's going to be one of their agenda items, whether it's the 13th or later, I don't know. But I guess really I was just letting you know, if you haven't already heard it, that there's a lot going on there. And it didn't help that when the police were called, the guy who responded said that Littleton doesn't have a leash law. So that didn't help things, but everybody knows now. And I think they're going to try to get the police department and the animal control officer, I don't know, on board, and everyone aware of what can and cannot be done.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Hi, Kyle.
Evening. Sorry, I'm late.
That's okay. Next is Community Preservation Act possible application review.
Yes. So, what I'm planning to do is to submit an eligibility and funding request to the CPC for next month's meeting for invasive plant control and the cobblestone pathway at the Frog Pond. So, I'm currently writing up 2 separate applications because one, the invasive plant control application will be under open space, and the cobblestone pathway will be under recreation. So I'm going to have drafts written up for our next meeting. And then depending on what you guys think, we can, change whatever we need to. And then I'll submit both applications to the CPC for the January meeting. And then we'll have funding for the spring.
Does that give you enough time?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yep. And Amy, did you want to?
Oh, well, I was gonna say, is that integral in having the December 17th meeting?
Well, that's
Conservation
why,
meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the CPC meets typically on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. So it'll be the 3rd Wednesday in January.
So Amy, because that was one of our discussion items so the next meeting would be January 7th, correct? Amy?
We do not meet on the 17th, correct?
Right. So that would work for you, Andrew, right?
Yep. Yeah, that would still be perfect.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's great. Okay.
Perfect. And this will all kind of correspond with the permitting for the dredging. We'll see if we can tuck it all into one NOI and.
I mean, yes.
Okay. Great. All right. Moving on. Other discussion items was the next meeting. So I don't think that we had tentatively held December 17th. There's nothing new that has come in that is pressing. So we'd like to move that the next meeting will be January 7th. If we're good with that.
If you wanted to wait to the end of the meeting, just make sure nothing comes up, but that would be the plan. Right now, there is nothing scheduled for the 17th.
Okay, great.
And I did have one more thing to add also,
Okay.
which will be at the end, but.
Yep, I've got one. So for the January newsletter, and especially after listening to Laura Matei, I'd like to do some type of wording to thank our land stewards, but also the weed warriors as well in that January, just to shout out to them. Is there anyone else besides those 2 entities that we would like to acknowledge?
The trail crew is kind of a separate bunch. But-
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you gonna single out Jim or because he just retired, right?
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, what would you like to do? I just think it's a good opportunity for January.
And maybe just LCT in general too.
Okay. That would be great. So those were the 2 items that I had.
And actually, I was going to say, if we're just sending out a big shout out, we can throw these scouts in there too.
Yep.
If you want to make this broad or just want to focus it.
I think my main hope is that we acknowledge who's really put in a lot of time, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. You said that you had one more thing, Amy, because our next agenda item is not till 8:10.
2 things actually. The Hager conservation restriction, which I think got added to the revised agenda, which you actually voted, I didn't even look it up, quite a while ago to approve, is actually finalized. It was just taking a long time back and forth between the owner's attorney and EEA about basically how the HOA was structured. It was a land ownership thing more than anything to have to do with the CR, but it is done. So I think if you're amenable, it's probably worth another approval vote, and then it will need all your signatures and they have to be live. So you're going to have to come into town hall to sign it.
So would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
I'm assuming that means nothing drastic has changed. We're voting on
Yeah,
something
nothing
like
has.
that in here.
I'll make a motion that the commission approve the proposed CR for the Hager Homestead property.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Carl,
Come over, guy.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
myself, aye. It's unanimous.
So I will have, I think, 2 copies for you to sign just in case one, gets lost. And it'll be in our offices and you will might get to meet Megan, the new administrative assistant,
When will that be ready, Amy, do you think?
tomorrow.
Okay, awesome.
Amy, I won't get there until after Christmas. I will be out.
I was gonna say, not a monstrous
Okay.
rush. The select board has to do all their signatures and everything too, so it'll be there. I will send out a reminder tomorrow and then I'll send out a reminder after Christmas.
Perfect.
And then I will chase you down like a dog if you haven't signed it by the new year.
Yeah. The town, I assume town hall is open during that week between Christmas and New Year, a couple
Yep.
days at least.
Yeah, Christmas is what, Wednesday or something like that?
Yeah.
I forget what those,
Yeah, Wednesday.
Christmas
And then New Year's
New
is
Year's
when-
Day will be closed, but
Okay.
When did you
and
say?
Friday's only a half day
When did you say it'd be ready?
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Mondays, Tim is there until 6, and Fridays, people are gone by 12:30.
And then Amy, you said you had one more discussion item?
Yeah, just to let you know, Tim is putting together a SISMA grant for more invasive species control to do a Weed Warrior program like we did this past fall with teaching people how to do herbicide application, as well as rip out a lot of burning bush. They did an incredible amount of work last time. And we're also working with the fire chief to see if he can do a demonstration or just do separately a targeted burn for Japanese barberry, which is apparently susceptible to fire. So we might set up 2 plots, one that's going to get burned and one that's just left alone, and just see what happens.
That's the Japanese barberry. Okay. Burn that. Okay. We have 2 more minutes before we get to 91 Mattawanakees. Do we need to bring anybody in?
Well, can I mention, there's iPhone 86 on there. I'm not sure who that is, if that's Kevin. Whoops, let me allow you to talk.
While you're doing that, did anyone see that there was a headline released today that they are, whoever is looking to add monarch butterflies to the endangered species list?
Huh.
So that's something to keep an eye on, apparently. Didn't think
Yikes.
State endangered or federal?
it sounded federal, which I guess makes sense. I didn't think it was as big of a problem here. Apparently it's a big problem elsewhere.
But I think the state also just redid their list. Or was it the feds? I sent myself a note to read it and I said, you know what? I'm not going to read it. So, because I'm sure it's a lot of grasses and moths that I don't know. So I don't know if iPhone 86 can identify themselves.
They're currently muted.
A hand kind of keeps coming and going.
That's for Anne.
Sorry about that. It's John McGagan.
Oh, sorry, John. Thanks.
This is Kevin Eastman.
Under Ann McDonald, Ann Donald.
Yeah, that's my wife.
Okay, fine.
We're
All
trying
right.
to figure it
So 15 Powers isn't going to go on until 8:25. So just so you know, so we're just working on the 8:10 right now.
Figured better early than late.
Yes, no, we appreciate it. Just letting you know. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead. With notice of intent 91 Mattawanakie Trail, Mass DEP 204-1014, which also has a bylaw waiver required. Addition and a renovation of an existing deck. If you'd like to go ahead and review that, that would be great.
Can you hear me, folks? Come on.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, you folks got a chance to go out and look at the deck, the back deck. And I was curious what your thoughts were.
Carl?
I think we were gonna try and have a bigger discussion with folks. We had a bunch of thoughts on it, with the runoff and potentially trying to control more of that runoff. Because right now, and we're gonna look into that, potentially look into a dry well as a place to put some water. We're gonna look into that, you were gonna look into that pipe. So there's a few things that the commission really hasn't had a chance to discuss yet.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that I would like to do is plug up that drain pipe that exists under the deck and then look into expanding I don't know if you call it a dry well or a rain garden under the deck. I would prefer to take care of any additional runoff under the deck and not do any further work on the lawn. You know, there was some discussion about putting a dry well in the lawn further down, but you know, those are mature plants, they've been there for 20 years. I really prefer not to do that. So I would focus on trying to mitigate any additional water runoff under the deck itself. That would be my priority. And to step back a couple of steps, you know, if I built a deck, replaced the existing deck, put a deck over it, screened it in, and left the top deck permeable, if I let the water just come through, would that be acceptable? That's the question. You know, one of the things I like to do is get the drawings out there and get the job bid. But if putting a second deck on with a permeable floor isn't acceptable, then there's no need to proceed. Any thoughts?
Well, we also had a question, sir, that when we were out and looking at the plan, that the plan didn't actually represent what was there. And it may have been that we were working off an old plan where the stairs were in a different location. And so I think we had mentioned that we really have to make sure that for accuracy, we have plans that are to scale. And I think we were surprised to see the drainage that was there that was not on that plan as well.
Yes, you know, my thoughts were that the plans really show what I'm going to do. The drain has been there. The steps have been there for, God, 20, 30 years.
Right, but you're altering where water is going, so you have to mark what is there on the property. So it's kind of like an inventory of that is to scale of what is there and what is actually functioning.
Okay, and also if I plan to plug up that drain so that the water does not go that way, I'll include that on the plans.
Well, include it in your narrative.
Yes.
Is what you're gonna propose.
And again,
That's what
I
you're
throw out
proposing.
for thought, if I don't build, I think the whole conversation started, if I put a second deck on the top and it allows the water to run off in one direction only. The water's not going to go through the deck and second floor deck, hit the first floor deck, which it currently does. If I were to proceed that way, do you have any issues with the plan of building one deck on top of the other?
Right. The challenge would be, especially if you plug up that drain that's there now, one of the challenges that we don't know whether it is efficient or inefficient, that drain that's there. And if you're now putting water in a more directional path down onto those pavers, you're going to get that kind of bouncing effect of when some of these big storms come through, that water is then going to channelize down off those brick pavers down the lawn.
Yeah, what I would do is I'd tilt the top deck so that the water drains away from that concrete block wall. So it would be further away, 12 feet away from that concrete block wall. But what I'll do is I'll define that in the updated plan.
Carl, do you follow that?
Yeah, and I follow. When you came up with some other idea, you say you're going to put, you would want to screen in the bottom?
Yeah, well, for a screened-in porch, what I need to do is put screens all around the first floor. And then what I would do is put screens below the deck on the second floor to keep the bugs out. But one option is the water could just run right through, as it does now.
So I guess we'd have to see that. If that's what you're proposing, we'd have to see that on some plans.
I'll review the plans that I supplied. And if it doesn't show a slight tilt, I don't know if that's the right word, then I'll update the plans.
If I may, so if you're talking about, you can see my cursor, yes, on here?
Yeah.
This would just be planking. This would not be impermeable.
I mean, that's one option. If this is putting a impermeable, second floor on creates big heartaches, what if I just made it open deck? So the rain comes through on the second floor, comes through the first floor, and ends up where it has always been. Would that be an issue?
I think it comes back to that we're not engineers. We're here to kind of review. It's like a magic wand knowing where the water is actually going to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's the challenge. What we're really trying to avoid is this water then channeling and hitting your pavers and, creating some catastrophe down there.
Okay, well, let me update the plan, and I can speak to possibly somebody with engineering, is familiar with the water runoff and what they would suggest.
Okay. Can we
But
talk
again,
just to remind the commissioners that this does require a waiver, and I don't feel like we had time to touch on that at the last meeting of how this ticks the right box to meet the town bylaw waiver requirements. So I want to make sure that we touch on that.
I could see this going under safety, right? There's a doorway leading out to nowhere right now, correct?
But
Yes.
it's been like that for 20 years.
Yes.
So that's not going to stop somebody tomorrow from walking out it. I mean, sure, the odds are slim. I agree with that, but unless part of this project is taking that door out and removing that entranceway, I will always think that is a safety liability for this owner or any next owner.
Yeah, I'm not going to remove the door.
So was there a porch there at one point?
No.
Yeah, he went over that last meeting, right?
Always
There was supposed to
So
be
how do you get a building permit if you have a door to nowhere?
there was supposed to be a deck there, right? That was the
Yes.
original plan. We've talked about it.
So,
Yeah, I didn't-
so an occupancy was granted with a door to nowhere, which was a safety issue.
Yes. The deck was never finished.
It was already occupied.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, what would you like to do? Just to recap for the applicant?
I mean, was there ever an option of somehow collecting the water and getting it back to the graveled area under the first floor? I mean,
Like collected how?
Well, you put leaders on houses, right? What's the, if he ends up putting a permeable surface there, the drawings do show it's slanted towards that patio area.
Right.
Let's just put a rain leader on that and the downspout that lets the water flow into that gravel area.
What about changing out some section of some of those pavers to make it so that some of the water and moisture
Yeah.
can get down through?
Yeah, that's certainly an option to take a foot or a foot and a half off. There's a door right there, so it goes into the basement. I won't want to block that off. That's part of it. But again, I'd like to look at either a dry well or a depression under the deck where the water can collect a good volume of water and not flow anywhere.
Right. And that's really where an engineer, that's their expertise with that. And they can
Yes.
calculate some of your rainstorms, and they would look at the surface area that you have for
Yeah.
both decks.
Yeah,
Yes.
even if you put the gutter there, we don't know how much water is coming down through there and how much that.
It's going to be less than a roof, right? That I understand where you're going with this, but a 20-foot square deck compared to the size of a roof that has what are they, 2-inch gutters on them?
There's no
But
gutters.
it has a
There's no
pipe
gutters.
there now that we don't know if it's working or not working. So we have to assume that that's there. And if you're going to turn off that pipe, you have to make sure that the soil is going to be suitable to absorb that water.
Yeah, right now the pipe is too high. It's higher than the top of the concrete block wall. So the water would run over the wall before it ever hit that pipe.
Can somebody describe this pipe in more detail? All you've said is, I'm sorry, I couldn't make the sidewalk, but
I
I
think
just
it was-
heard pipe and I have no idea where it is, what
It was in one of the pictures. If you look at the picture, top down, that I took from the attic,
It's a little rubber kind of pipe that sits up above the ground. It doesn't look like it was, engineered. It's just
Which picture do you want to see?
I think it was the very last one. It's a top-down view.
This one?
I guess.
see a pipe in any of these pictures.
it's a little thing that sticks up out of the ground, and there's an outlet along the wall.
Correct.
Oh, so it's a drain.
It's a drain.
It's a drain behind the wall to prevent heave and, okay, all right. That's,
But he says
Yeah, Amy, I just sent it to you.
yeah, that's okay. That's good to know. That's very different, right? If we're putting a bunch of water in that gravel behind a wall, and now that's where the water's going to go, is come out that drain onto the pavers. That's different.
Yeah, it doesn't come out to the paper set. It comes down further out in the yard. But again, it's too high. I don't think it's ever been effective.
Oh,
I think
the
it's ever
drain,
been-
the drain is too high on the wall. It's not
The
a drain.
height.
the drain is too high, sticking up out of the surface. of it.
Are we referring to the drain as the cinder blocks that are there?
No, that tube, kind of like
Right next to it?
yeah, little 3-inch thing stick.
What was the function of the cinder blocks that are there then?
I thought it was just collect some of the water,
Okay.
kind of like a dry well. Not engineered. It's just what I thought.
I don't think the pipe or that were, and I don't think either one of those things were engineered.
No, they're definitely not.
So I think what we're definitely gonna need something more engineered to start with. We know that.
Okay.
Well,
hopefully this has been some good feedback for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so can I just ask
Mm-hmm.
potentially hypothetically whatever that if he does want to go ahead and have a pervious roof over that deck right there, an impervious roof, excuse me, and then the deck above it, that you could potentially see a way to a waiver based on safety as well as improved drainage. I just want to make sure that you see that as a possibility if this all goes well for a waiver or not.
there'd be an improvement of the current deck. Right, improvement of the lower, so it'd be new construction on the lower deck,
Upper deck
correct?
is new.
Well, an improvement in environmental conditions for the waiver to meet the public interest.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think out the project.
Yeah.
I hear where you're going, but I'd want to see the drainage that's proposed first to make sure it's actually better, because you are adding another layer that's
Right.
not
And
very-
it's been a while since I've been on the site, because I'm not sure if there's a possibility in terms of size of taking some of the roof runoff and collecting that, or maybe that's already happening. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, of just
Yeah.
trying to collect some of that. And I think that's something applicant needs to look at, especially with some of these bigger storms that we get. Because
Yeah.
the water is not going through those pavers.
Yeah, I can tell you that, in 30 years, I've never seen the water flow over the concrete wall. But I also understand from your perspective, you need some engineering review of the current drainage and possible improvement to the current drainage. So, me telling you it hasn't flowed over that wall in 30 years doesn't help. But in fact, it hasn't. But I
Well,
still will go
And
off.
I think part of discovery is to actually look and see what material is in where those concrete, where the pipe is, and the concrete, to see what's in there, and if that is an area that could potentially be a recharge area right there.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate your inputs and help.
Yep.
So this continued too?
Yep. So with your permission, we would like to continue to January 7th is our next public hearing.
Yes,
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Have a great night.
Take care.
Okay, it's 8:28. We're going to open the 8:20 public hearing. Notice of intent 24 Green Needles, Mass DEP 204-1015. Waiver required removal of hazard trees. Michael is going to recuse himself on this.
That's right.
Who, that Bonnie?
Yes.
Bonnie, you are muted, so if you could unmute yourself, that would be great. I know that Ed went out on site, and Amy's been on site as well.
Hello.
Good evening. And so if we could just do a quick review of how many trees we're looking to remove.
Okay, well, they changed it when, Ed went out with, Amy for the walk. They removed 2 trees, so I crossed them out in this new picture that I sent. So there's a total of 8 trees. I don't know if you can see the printout.
And these 8 trees are deemed hazard trees.
Yes,
Okay.
and one of them actually was beyond the 100-foot, but I kept it on there as one of the 8 trees. I didn't.
So we're really looking at 7 that are jurisdictional, and how many are,
100 feet, yes, correct.
yep, and how many are in the 0 to 50 feet?
The 50, right below 50 feet, there's one 42 and one at 52, so a little above. There's one tree at 42 feet,
Okay.
and there's the other one at 52 feet, which is number 9.
So there's one tree that would require a waiver.
Number 10, let's call it number 10. That's 42. It's on the other page.
Okay. So Amy, is that correct? So there would be one tree that falls within the waiver, and then there would be 6 other trees in the 50 to 100.
Correct.
Okay, commissioners, do we have questions?
And she's also got proposed plantings, which
Yeah,
I think
I
you
was
can
just
see on the screen there.
Can we talk
did.
through the planting plan real quick?
I did. I actually put in the trees that are there anyway, just automatically. There's trees around the yard. It's not a really big yard, so I did not put those trees in on the other meeting, but I just kind of scribbled in current trees that aren't going anywhere. But yes, I put in some plantings, and I put on the right-hand side in this picture showing the ones that I've been looking at to plant in the spring.
Amy, what do you think about that list?
I think it's a good list. It's kind of a combination of shrubs and some sort of pollinator things in there. It's tough. It's a very shady and probably acid soil in there from all the pines. And I will say there's about 15 trees down here in the 0 to 50 that are remaining.
They're big, yeah.
How, let's talk about the access for whomever is going to remove the trees, how they can access the property.
Yes,
And, your desire, are we just going to cut them off at the stump? Because we know we're not going to remove them. Are you going to grind them or are you just going to leave the stump?
no, I was gonna leave the stump. I had actually, spoke to Amy and Ed about, can I grind them? They said you can grind them, but you wouldn't want to remove them because you want to, it's kind of like on a,
Well, it's what stabilizes everything.
yeah, to keep stable. So I'm cool with that. That's not, I mean, I don't even have to grind them, but I think it would look nicer, but we're not gonna remove the stumps at all.
Okay. Commissioners, questions?
The one that's in the 0 to 50, that's a hazardous tree, right?
Very,
It's a monster, one of those monster pines. All the ones on this side are
Oh.
kind of all leaning towards the house.
So this is a notice of intent with a waiver required. What would we like to do?
And actually DEP did issue the number, and I think their only comment was whether or not the commission wants to consider erosion controls.
That was kind of where I was headed with, I again, didn't get to the site here, what that looks like where, number 9 and 10 are.
Yeah, I'd say especially this side's, this side slopes down reasonably steep. And if they're grinding the stumps and getting equipment in there, I think a line of erosion controls through here that we can make a condition that we approve the setup of it.
Would you want
Unless you want
wattles or what would you need? Wattles or silt fencing or what are your thoughts?
I think wattles will do it.
Okay.
what's a waddle?
I'll send you some pictures.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's typical erosion control, so. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
And
Yeah.
And the waiver would be based on the safety of the tree not hitting the house?
Correct.
Yep. And that's just one.
I may have missed it, but when were you looking to have the trees taken down?
I'd like to do it for the first of the year.
Okay.
This month, because it's, I'm trying to get work done. The house is pretty much falling apart and it needs roof and siding and windows and all that. So I'd like to even do that during the winter. So I think the trees are the first thing I want to get done so that we can get people in there to do the work and clean the yard and stuff.
Okay.
Plus they're offering a 15% special off. That sounds crazy, but
I can appreciate that.
they said, well, after 50, they left me a voicemail the other day. I've had them out there a few times, like 3 or 4 times. So,
Okay. All right, commissioners, what would we like to do?
Yeah, is everybody comfortable with that planting plan? I mean, I know we asked her about it, but nobody really had any comments on it except for Amy.
oh,
So if Amy is, then
If Amy's good, I'm good.
okay.
I would ask that on a final plan that someone has, that the erosion controls are drawn into that plan.
And would you also like the basic 2-year monitoring period for the new shrubs?
Yeah, I would, 3 years.
Yep, 3-year.
can I plant them in the spring, or summer? Is it okay to wait till then? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've been kind of saying sometime in May at this point is kind of what we're looking at for planting at this point.
All right, do we have someone that would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the commission issue an order of conditions for 24 Green Needles Road, Mass DEP file number 204-1015 for the removal of hazardous trees under a safety bylaw waiver with the monitoring period that was previously mentioned.
Second.
All right, roll call votes. Kyle,
Maxwell, aye.
Carl,
Cal Melberg, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
and myself, I. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 ayes and 1 recusal.
Perfect. All righty. Good luck, Bonnie.
Thank you, guys. Have a great holiday.
You too.
Thank you as well.
Thanks.
Okay, it's 8:36. We'd like to go ahead and open the 8:25 continued discussion on the enforcement order, 15 Powers Road, unpermitted grading and fill in a buffer zone. John, are you still with us? Oh, there you go.
I am.
Yep. Okay, great. So we had a site walk the other day. John was there, Matt Morrow was there, Ed, Tim, Amy, and myself.
Ed.
Yep, Ed was there. Yep. John, do you want to go ahead and talk us through a little bit of what you're thinking for the next week or two? So we did, I'm not sure if you heard, so we are not going to meet on the 17th. We're going to meet on January the 7th.
Okay, that's fine. I don't know if Matt necessarily needs to be there for that meeting, but I'll check in with him after this. So
Okay. So for the commissioners that weren't on the site walk, do you want to just kind of go through what your vision is now?
Like we had talked about, I've talked with somebody who has a machine that I can move some of the kind of heavy pallets of stuff, just miscellaneous things behind the rhododendron, out behind the shed to try and consolidate and organize some stuff. Matt verified, or I guess you guys verified the wetlands line, correct?
Yep. And so what Matt would do, with your permission, John, would be to plot those on a plan. And then you would basically come back to us and say what you're going to move and what you're going to do and what that restoration plan looks like. Well, like we talked about the erosion that's going on right now, that little scouring on the right as you go down where the driveway was added.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about potentially adding maybe more wattles if it was necessary. I looked at it yesterday. I mean, or I guess maybe last night or after it rained for 12 hours straight, and I didn't see anything kind of out of the ordinary. But like I had said on the sidewalk, if you guys would feel more comfortable with me putting in a second set of wattles in, kind of extending further up the driveway towards that tree at the top corner, I could do that.
Well, I think tomorrow's going to be the bumper crop day for all the water, I think. So supposed to get what, 2 inches?
Oh, good.
So what else, John, would you like to share with the commission? So commission, as of for tonight, this was just kind of an update. And then for the next meeting would really be hopefully a plan that everyone can digest, and that in good faith, you would have already started to move some of the things out.
Yeah, so like I said, I can get Amy some pictures as soon as I get some stuff moved, so you guys have a better idea of where stuff is. I can plot stuff on, I could get a separate plan and plot where I plan on keeping things and what's going to stay. And then I guess with the rain yesterday, I didn't get a chance to do anything new with the plan, verification with the wetlands wise. I was working on it this afternoon, so I think by the end of this week, I could get Amy a copy of that, which will have the buffers, both buffer zones and the flags marked.
And you're going to work with Matt to help you with that?
Yep.
Okay. Because he's going to be instrumental to help giving you that vision and what's going to be ultimately what the plan is for what's going to get removed and what's going to be planted.
Right.
Okay. Commissioner?
And what might need a notice of intent
Yes.
to
Yep.
remain.
Yep, he's working with me on getting one of those filled out. So
Okay, great. Commissioners, any questions for John or anything else?
Hey, John, during the heavy rain tomorrow, be a bad idea to take some pics of that area. Just
Yeah, I could
The water.
certainly, if I
Mhm.
could try and get some pictures in the morning before I leave for work.
Yeah.
I could try and get some pictures when I get home from work.
Yeah.
I
But
think it's
I don't-
basically noting that I think what Carl's trying to tell you is that it's good to know where the water wants to
Yeah.
go.
Yep.
So, and you
Yeah,
can
I
even,
mean, I think yeah, it's good. In some ways, we're getting that rain. It'll really show where the water wants to go.
Right. Like, I mean, honestly, exactly. When you only get a little bit of rain, what percentage actually gets down that way
Yeah.
and wants to make a little rivulet, opposed to when you actually get close flooding.
Yeah.
and it's a good opportunity to look at your whole wall all the way across to the other side, not just in that area.
Yep. I mean, I think most of it's pretty well established and grown in, but I can look at some of the exposed areas.
Yeah. Thank you. That'd be great.
Any questions of us, John, or the commissioners? Do you have any questions? Okay.
I do have one question.
Yep.
With the tickets that were issued, we dealt with that. I just want to make sure on my end, is there anything that I'm missing or you guys are expecting from me that we haven't talked about, or I guess that I'm unaware of, so we can avoid any more tickets being issued? Everything that I've been doing and currently am doing is in compliance, right?
I can only speak for myself. I believe it is, but you're going to have to start to remove some of those items, Sean. So you can't add anything else in that buffer zone.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
So, and I would tend to think that the biggest, I don't know, milestone coming up would be the January 7th the plan for January 7th.
Yep. And Matt, you guys know Matt Morrow, he was away and had some family
Yeah.
issues. So I haven't really been able to communicate with him since Thanksgiving. I know it's been a little bit, but now that he's getting back into it, that's definitely something I can work with him on a little bit more.
Right, and he shared that with us. I would encourage you to have him come to that meeting for the 7th, because that could be a directional meeting, and it's nice that he can hear that and be able to ask questions of the commissioners.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
You too.
Okay, commissioners, I think we got through all the discussion items. So just to recap, the next meeting would be January 7th. And Andrew, you're going to bring along, Andrew, are you going to send us some of that ahead of time for the CPA?
Yes, I'll need to have that at least a couple of weeks prior to the meeting. The biggest lifts with those will just be gathering potential costs for the invasive plant management plan assessment, first phase of work, and then the actual cobblestone. The cobblestone pathway might be a little tricky getting an exact figure for, but so we can do. But I'll have the language all together with pictures and.
And there's probably not a problem if you send that around, if people just respond to you directly. Like if someone thinks you either missed something or said something wrong, get it dealt with early. You know, no back and forth, but so that way you can get a response before a formal response on the 7th.
That's great. Amy, can I ask you, because Chase and Ed were not here tonight, to send a reminder tomorrow about coming into the office to signing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Does anybody have anything else? If not, it's 8:45. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Alrighty. Second.
All right.
Roll call.
Final roll call. Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle.
Oh, Maxfield, aye.
Carl.
I'm over, guy.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Myself, I. It's